Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity, a show about weirdos, with your hosts, John Fahey and Darren Peter.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity. I am John Fahey. I am joined by the sweetest, newly fresh-cut pretty boy, Mr.
Aaron Joseph Pretty Boy Peter.
Oh, God, you started adding on to my shit.
Dude, I mean, your shit is my shit.
I already said you're gorgeous.
Well, I gotta add a little. I'm also narcissistic.
Fucking motherfucker.
You motherfucker.
You fucking motherfucker. You fucking kill your kids. Listen.
Thank you, John.
I love you. I love another man in the room. This very hardworking, gorgeous fella. I'll tell you something about this guy. He records his other podcast directly before this, and it's a big workload for the guy. I love him so much. Everybody, share your love for Mr. Matt Brousseau.
I can hear them clapping. I can hear them out in the fields.
Everybody at home. Yeah, everybody listening to the podcast in the field. Jesus. They have the Studio Sweden wireless headphones.
That's right.
In the fields. Yeah.
They're comfortable.
They're very nice. This is the second episode ever where we have had a guest, friend of the show, avid listener, fine stand-up comic, one of my best friends, a man I absolutely adore. Everybody, this is Mr. Radostin Zahariev. Say hello, Rad.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here finally on Drunk History, the podcast.
Yeah, he's a fine stand-up comic. Welcome, Rad.
I love the fucking son of a bitch. Rad is going to be dropping a profile on us. In the future, we are looking to have some more guests, like I said before, dropping some profiles on us because I feel like everybody's got a weirdo. Everybody's got a weirdo story to tell. If you are, anybody out there, a listener, a friend of the program, stand up, whatever, please get in contact with us if you want to share a profile. We always love it.
Yeah.
I want to kick things off with something that I am really hyped about right now. Friend of the program and also avid listener, Katie Merriam got me a birthday gift that was basically to feed me profiles. And it's just fantastic. But the first thing I opened it up to was history of New Coke.
Uh-huh.
And this whole book,
The Drink.
Yeah, New Coke, not New Chop. This whole book was absolutely fantastic. But one of the best things about it was that it showed something that we are going to do more of in the future, which is like eccentric inventions, which New Coke kind of is. Coke, reigned from the Southeast from like Atlanta. 1885 Atlanta, and it was mainly carried through to the World War II era by a guy named Woodruff. And Woodruff was like adamant about getting Coca-Cola to the front lines of the troops in the Second World War, and it became like emblematic of like what they were fighting for, and so like America had this very strong attachment to Coke. But then we go into the like Vietnam Watergate era, and suddenly it's like everybody doubts everything. And I talk about this a lot with cinema, like how everybody was like,
democracy's a sham. Coke tastes like shit.
Yeah, so it finally gives, Pepsi came out 13, I think, years after Coke. And, it started eating a major share of the soda like market. And by 1972, they came up with the Pepsi Challenge.
So the Pepsi Challenge was they would blindfold people and have them take a swig of one unmarked glass of liquid and compare it to the other, and people were choosing Pepsi.
They were choosing Pepsi. And it was the first time Coke really got shook. And Coke was already super entwined with the McDonald's Corporation, and that was like their de facto thing. But now Pepsi was coming out of nowhere being like, hey, maybe the president sucks. Maybe Vietnam was a mistake. Maybe Pepsi's better than Coke. And people were like, yeah, for real. Like, that was the thing. And so this was like so successful. By the time the 100-year anniversary of Coke was coming around, Coke was like, we really need to do something. These guys are outperforming us. We need to combat it. So they super fucking secretly started coming up with new Coke. I'm talking about need-to-know basis. People on the board don't know about it. Artwork shown to each other in parking garages under flashlight.
Watergate.
Yes! Seriously, like going to meet Deep Throat. Exactly. Don't tell anybody this, and that. And the guy who's now taken over from Woodruff is on his deathbed. And this guy, he's a Cuban-American named Goizeta. Goizeta is like...
And they love Coke there.
Right.
No, I mean, yes, but also the drink.
For real, yeah.
Libre is the drink.
They did. Fidel Castro was an avid Coca-Cola fan.
Yeah.
And so Goizeta was like, he asked, supposedly, it's kind of debated whether he asked Woodruff on his deathbed, is this okay that I can do it? And supposedly Woodruff was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. But people are like, I don't know about that. Because Woodruff is really the guy that built the whole brand, like I said, got it to the front lines during World War II and all that. And they do this big unveiling in 1985, a huge deal that is like, it shows the legacy of Coke through the American experience, all the famous people drinking Coke throughout the ages, presidents and
Santa
heroes,
Claus.
like all this shit. And they unveil new Coke, saying like, we're back, here we go. And they're doing away with old Coke. It's new Coke. That's it. And at the press conference, people are like, well, what's up with new Coke? And they're asking, like, these executives are not ready for a press conference. They're like, well, it's more rounded, but they're like dynamic. Like, they don't know what this, like, they're fucking idiots, you know? Basically, in focus groups, they chose new Coke over Pepsi and Coca-Cola Classic, as we now know it, all the time. But also in focus groups, there was like 10 to 50% of people that were very hostile to changing Coke. But that data didn't come out in the wash. They were doing other surveys and stuff like that. Overwhelmingly, everybody favors new Coke. Everybody's down with it, right? So they unveil it.
Did they do the thing with Cosby, right?
Yes. Cosby was also a huge spokesman for Coke, and he was saying that he preferred Coke because Pepsi was too sweet. New Coke was sweeter than both of them, which we now know from like all the food science data that's come out. Anytime you add sugar, sales go up. All the cereals, they just like, well, we put more sugar. Oh, sales went up. Like, it's a fucking addiction. So that's why it was going on. But also, a lot of these tests were based on a sip. Not a full fucking can of piss. You know what I mean? Like
sweet Coke.
Right. You were just having like a bit and be like, oh, this is better. It's because you had like a tiny taste. But by the time you chug a full fucking can, you're like, what the fuck?
You're going into a diabetic coma, yeah.
But same also, they, right. And a little bit is nice.
A little dab will do
a whole
you.
bladder will fuck you up. But so they do the whole rollout, right? And it starts, of course, in all the major metropolitan areas. But then it filters down to the South. Where Coke started, the Southeast, where our guest has spent a lot of time.
We don't like your newfangled Coke,
we don't like all this Yankee. They really viewed it through a Civil War prism of, well, now you're changing our Coke. What's fuck?
Next? You're gonna give them the right to vote?
Right, yeah. Seriously.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. First, first you take our black people, now you take our favorite drink.
right, yeah.
What's next?
So they are like, fuck no, right? And now back in the day, it wasn't like it is now where Coca-Cola controls every bit of the operation. You had bottlers, right? So bottlers are like this, like, secondhand person. These bottlers in the Southeast, people won't talk to them. And stuff. They get like intimidation, and Coca-Cola starts getting threatening ass phone calls. Like, they're like, we saw a blowback you can't imagine. Like, because they were attacking what a lot of people consider the American dream, because America doesn't have a long history. So we weirdly take all of the stuff that like Europeans have with like old gods and folk heroes and stuff like that, and we put them on products and celebrities and shit.
And they carry more weight, right?
What's that?
Said you're welcome.
Right. So like, it's like, you're taking away the frontline Coca-Cola and putting this new shit on it.
Right.
And it was like, the fucking hippie that hated Vietnam and the dad that was super pro-Vietnam could all agree that new Coke sucks. You know what I mean? Like, that was really the deal. Like, it was like, everybody was like, fuck this, we don't want some things to change, and we do need some continuity, and we all need some things that we can gather around as a country.
Right.
And it could be even something as stupid as Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And this shit, a month in, executives are like, we fucked up so bad. They're like, because it wasn't even so much that we dropped New Coke and said this is the way we go. We also erased Coca-Cola Classic,
which is nuts. I can't believe that they did that.
Right. Yeah, they were like, no, that's it. And like, so there's been conspiracy theories since that it was like, okay, this was a whole thing where eventually, of course, we go back to Coca-Cola Classic, but they were saying, oh, it was because they wanted to change from cane sugar to high fructose corn syrup. Not true. They started putting high fructose corn syrup as early as 1980 and replacing the cane sugar and stuff like that. So it wasn't that. It was really that they didn't want to share the market with Pepsi, and Pepsi was outperforming them, and it was sweeter and blah, blah, blah.
It's a taste of a new generation.
Right. Yeah. Would you believe that motherfucker Cosby said he didn't like New Coke because it was damaging his reputation?
I mean, yeah, he's like, he's like the pill doesn't sink in the New Coke.
It doesn't dissolve
it's all
balloons as well as the original
not
Coke.
for me.
Dancing around the top of the can.
They could see it right there.
It's so could you like? I mean, the fucking power this man had at the time.
Yeah.
Bill Cosby, the face of Coke. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Before doing research on this, I never knew Bill Cosby was the Coke guy.
Oh, really? I remember seeing the commercial.
Well, I just grew up with Jell-O. I knew that, of course, but yeah, in 1985, Bill Cosby was voted America's favorite dad.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which was huge.
Yeah, for a black man.
in black-white relations in the country. But so Goizetto, like I said, is fucking Cuban American, and people are like, well, if this is successful, are you going to change Diet Coke also to the new formula? And he goes, no, this is a success, and no, we won't be changing Diet Coke. Like he's doubling down, like, no, old Coke is out, fuck you, whatever. Now, another thing that's happening at the same time, which is way more low key, is that they're also unveiling Cherry Coke at the same time, and that is super popular.
Yeah. Right?
That became like another like main flagship of the brand, right? That was like totally overlooked during this whole time. And Goizetto's dad fled Castro, Cuba, and his dad says to him, I think you made a mistake here. I like the old Coke better. And he says, it's the only time my father agreed with Fidel Castro. Isn't that fucking amazing?
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, shit. By the time July rolls around, they're done with it.
It's off the shelf.
A guy in Seattle that's trying to set up like a public relations firm. He sets up a thing called the Old Coke Drinkers of America, right? People are stockpiling the old formula anywhere they can get it. People internationally are telling them, we're not interested in new Coke. We don't want it. And then some of the executives, it came out way, way later, they went to Monaco.
Where they go.
Right. And people were like, we have a 6.5 ounce bottle of original Coca-Cola if you guys want that. And they were like, oh, fuck. Because it became this like super sought after thing, you know? So they are like, okay, fuck. They interrupted TV programs. Peter Jennings interrupted TV programs to announce that Coca-Cola Classic would come back on the market.
Jesus. So the hostages in Iran are this just in.
Yeah.
Old Coca's back.
Seriously. And so they call it Coca-Cola Classic. Pepsi, by the way, when they rolled out New Coke and it was a disaster, they declared VC Day, Victory Over Coke Day.
Oh, my God.
They said Coke has admitted that they are not the real thing.
What, like, at what point
that was their
this
slogan for a minute.
Yes. Yes. They were like...
They turned their own slogan
They said, we won the Cola Wars. Like, we're the fucking victors. Guess what? What's up?
Yeah. When is this happening? Like...
85.
Yeah, Pepsi was in Back to the Future.
Red, 3 months in 85. People fucking lost their shit over this.
This entire thing happened within the span of 3 months, and then it's done.
Yeah,
Wow.
So they eventually... So Coke, it was just Coke on the bottle, right? Mm-hmm. And then they throw out the script thing with Coca-Cola Classic, like you see it now. They write Classic underneath so that consumers could know,
right.
Here's the old formula. We got it back. If you still want new Coke. It's available. It looks like this. So then they're like, all right, that's still too distracting and still too fucked up. So they renamed Coke, new Coke, Coke 2, which I remember.
I don't remember that.
It was Coke 2 Roman numerals.
Cool.
Kind of, whatever. And I remember seeing like at the delis and shit when I was like growing up in Long Island or whatever. And I was like, I don't know the fucking difference. What the fuck, Coke? Yeah, cool. I had no idea.
Yeah.
It was a little bit before I was born in 83, you know what I mean? So I was like, I don't know, whatever. Also, the whole time, a ton of people still prefer new Coke. And some of the executives were saying, I knew people at the country club that would be like, honestly, I like new Coke.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell those Coke guys that, though. Like, you know what I mean? They were like, and it really was a cultural divide where people in Los Angeles, where we are, they still loved fucking new Coke. Mm-hmm. Like all the cities, all the other bumpkin areas were like Coca-Cola Classic. Fuck you.
Well, yeah, especially in that southeast area, they call all soda Coke.
Right.
That's true.
All soda's Coke.
They do. Yeah.
Of a Coke. What kind?
Yeah.
Sprite.
Right. Exactly. I remember being in Tennessee and people saying, "What kind of Cokes do you guys want?" I was like, "Huh?"
Not stepped on.
Yeah. When I was a kid in Vegas, I went to some tourist trap Coca-Cola museum, and they had a thing after they in the 20s after they stomped out the Coke cane
from Coke.
It's a damn shame.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just put some Coke in it.
Right. Yeah. After it was like a scandal, they had bottles printed dopeless Coca-Cola. To let you know, like, hey, your fucking husband's gonna come home. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, like that was like the thing. But yeah, so like Coke, their sales spike after this, and also during New Coke, their sales spiked. Like New Coke actually did work. Their sales were like up 8% over the previous year. And people really did like it and shit like that. And Goizeta went to his grave drinking new Coke. He was like, fuck you, I wasn't wrong. Like, seriously, like he was like, this was better. And every taste test did say it. But of course, it is also...
It's too much of a part of Americana to change.
People had no idea the spiritual connection that people had with fucking Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
They had no idea.
I think you're tapping into like America loves its history so much because there's so little of it.
Yes.
So they're so quick to just grab onto anything.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. My dad was telling me a thing one time where he was going, once John Wayne died, there was this big thing in the entertainment media saying, who's going to be the next John Wayne? Who's going to be the next John? Because you have to have one.
It must be.
Because you would be like, well, we don't fucking have one. No. Because
who's going to play Genghis Khan now?
Right. But and obviously the next John Wayne ended up being Clint Eastwood. That kind of carried it over or whatever. But Americans were still like, well, we can't not have that. Mm-hmm. To the point where they reanimated John Wayne to sell shit in commercials long after he was dead.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. My grandfather said to me one time, he was talking to me about computers.
They Heath Ledgered them?
He was like, they can do all types of shit now. He's like, I see John Wayne selling shit. He's been dead for fucking years. But like, yeah, for real, like they're like, you don't want to let go of that shit. It's like why people like Elvis. It's like there's always going to be an obsession. And
they brought Tupac out at Coachella.
Right. Yeah. And he would outsell anything. Fucking Michael Jackson. His dad was like, we're still taking him on the road. We're not going to bury the fucker.
I know. Oh, man. I saw some tweet about that. Like, I got to give props to Joe Jackson for being the first dad to successfully beat the Black Ops. Oh, it's so fucked up. And he got burned by Pepsi.
But it was the thing. It was like this motherfucker Joe Jackson that we all knew fucking like tortured his children was still going out in front of cameras after his most famous...
Take this show on the road.
We're going around the world. You think I'm done making money off my son? Hell no. And the thing is that people would still want it.
Yeah.
Like nobody would be like... I remember 50 Cent one time was basically calling out Puff Daddy being like, let Biggie rest. Stop milking it.
That's, I'm pretty sure it's Biggie, but it might be Tupac, but one of them has more music released after his death than during.
Yeah. It's got to be Tupac.
Tupac, yeah.
I remember Snoop Dogg saying one time, he's like, I definitely think that Tupac knew he was going to die because he's like, I've never seen anybody grind in the studio harder before his death Not that I believe that or whatever, like, but it is like I can understand why he was able to put out so much shit because there was brand new material. We're not talking about remixes. We're talking about brand new verses.
Yeah.
Brand new rhymes, like, you know?
You just grind it. Like, that's what happens, Snoop, when you're just not high all the time.
It's a trip, you know, a couple of things. I wonder if that new Coke formula is still like in a vault somewhere.
Right.
Did they just turn that into Coke Zero? Or, you know, there was a whole campaign with Diet Coke was just for the taste of it.
Right.
Never mind it as 0 calories. Some people like Diet Coke better.
Yeah, what the fuck is up with that?
I don't know.
Like
that, I think is a borderline addictive thing.
Some people, I need a Coke.
You know, Diet Coke people.
They are Diet Coke.
They are weird about it.
Yeah, can I get a Diet Coke?
Exactly.
This week we heard one, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know very obese people that are avid Diet Coke drinkers, and they'll also call out other obese people for drinking Diet Coke because they'll be like, this motherfucker comes up, he wants 2 chili dogs and a Diet Coke. I'm like, homie, that's not going to help. I was like, all right, fair enough, you know. But Diet Coke is like, it's you know, when you drink it, you're like, this is fucking, it's a weird chemical thing.
It is.
But fucking Trump champs Diet Coke like a motherfucker, and he
great,
is
too.
obese.
Yeah.
he's 70, leave him alone.
But no, but it is.
What has Trump done to you guys? Come on.
Diet Coke is a weird fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing.
It's super chemy.
Yeah, it doesn't taste like it should be enjoyable.
No, it's brown. I mean, well, they're all brown, but
Right, it's got a drip.
Well, does it have like aspartame in it or some shit?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think. Well,
They probably changed it recently.
They've changed it as time has gone by, but they've also. This is part of the thing with the new Coke debacle is they're saying if they fucking just didn't announce it and just slowly did, like nobody would have fucking known. Everybody would have got used to it if it was incremental because Coke previously had made incremental changes to introduce things like the high fructose corn syrup, and also to make the formula vegetarian, to make it kosher, to make it halal, to make it accommodate all of these other things. So that happened slowly over time, all before New Coke.
Wow.
So you were never really getting the original. It's not like it's fucking coming out of this fucking Tennessee fucking safe or some shit, and like, you know what I mean? Like it's still a totally different thing.
Yeah, they didn't have FD&C caramel coloring number 6 back in 1860.
Right, it's still just about the idea.
Yeah.
It's really just about the idea.
Yeah.
But it's fucking mind-blowing to me. And people later on also conspiracy theory. There's like several conspiracy theories about this fucking thing. Another one is that people were saying, oh, well, they still had cocaine in it at the time. They're like, no, they got rid of that in the 20s.
No, that's true. But there is still a company that is the only importer of coca from South America.
Right.
And they extract the cocaine out of it. I think they use it for like pharmaceuticals and shit. But the processed material is then used by Coca-Cola.
Interesting.
They still have that aspect of it in there.
Is there any new Coke still around? Like if you were a collector or something, could you get some?
Well, you know, once it became Coke 2, it eventually dwindled to like something like 3% of the market share. Like nobody gave a shit. It was just all about branding. And the thing is that they give in and they unveil the fucking thing. The first case of Coca-Cola Classic, they send to the guy with the public relations firm, Old Coke Drinkers of America. They send it right to him, and they just totally capitulate. And then they continue to completely dominate the market from thereafter. They totally dominated it, and people were like, okay, another conspiracy theory. This was a whole thing to dominate.
Take it away, give it back.
And one of the executives said, we are both not that stupid and not that smart.
Right.
It was really just a happy accident, and it's still like a marketing lesson to this day about fucking with brand shit and people's identification with it. And it's taught like in every business branding school, like the whole fucking thing. Like
just create a new one. That's what they do now. Is like, all right, we're going to make caffeine-free Coke, caffeine-free Diet Coke, Coke Natural, Coke Light, all these other ones, but don't change your flagship. When it's basically it's like Christianity unveiling a new cross. Yeah.
And they're saying like through this whole thing again, another like what really kind of like brought them up was the Cherry Coke thing. That's actually what kind of saved the brand during this whole other debacle, is that people were like, hey, this fucking Cherry Coke, it's fucking dope.
They don't have it in Canada, so anytime someone goes to the U.S., and like he has to bring shit back, they're like, yo, get some cherry Coke.
Really? They don't have it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, it's like in Canada, they're chips. They have like all dressed. They have all these different types of
ketchup
chip flavors that for some reason they've never brought to America.
Yeah.
Ketchup.
My friend sends me a box full of just ketchup chips every Christmas.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Don't make that face. It's delicious.
Ketchup chips?
I mean, it tastes like, what is it? The sour one, the dill, like vinegar and salt, vinegar, and then like some other one.
But I've also seen ketchup chips like in like the hood convenience store
here
in the Southeast.
Oh, that's probably.
Or you can go to like some like the Asian family marts, and they'll have some of the more obscure flavors.
Right. Stuff. Yeah. Hipster snacks.
Yeah. It's like squid Pringles.
Yeah. I'm so obsessed with this story since I guess a lot of people know about it. I didn't know how fucking crazy the whole thing was, and how secretive they were about unveiling it. Like. And that they also overlooked all of that market research about the 10 to 15% in the taste test that are like, what are you going to fuck with Coke? Are you out of your... Like, they were pissed. And they would also influence other people in the taste test to be like, no.
You don't like that.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
It was like an emotional reaction that was completely overlooked.
It's crazy how effective and how swift the response and their response was without no internet, no Twitter, no message boards, nothing.
Yeah.
But within the course of 90 days, it had this rise and fall. I mean,
right. Well,
phone calls and letters. And
they had a hotline, and it used to get. I mean, like when it was just regular Coke, it would still have like 30,000 calls or something. You know, who the fuck was calling when it was just the same?
Just want to say, keep up the good work.
Yeah, like what are you doing? By the time they unveil new Coke, it suddenly is like 180,000 calls, and people freaking out. Like operators were like. They had a fucking shrink listen in. And they said people shared traits with somebody that had lost a loved one.
Oh my
That was the tenor of their diatribes against the operator. It's like you think about like the whole thing that led to Trump is like white Americans feeling like shit is slipping away. It was like that whole same thing of like, now you're going to change this, you know? And people fucking lost it.
Wow.
But it was just so easy to get everybody on board with, why does it have to change?
Right.
We all grew up drinking it. We all love it. Why does it have to change?
Right.
But it did end up with them completely dominating from ever after.
Yeah.
Do you think that could happen today? Like, it'd be a lot harder to get
specifically
back.
Coke?
No, just any, like, a beloved American brand, and they switch it up somehow. I don't think at this point, like, you would get that kind of reaction from people. Like,
right.
It'd be a reaction, but I don't think it'd be like that anymore.
Well, I think they've gone the other way, where so everybody was getting more health conscious, and McDonald's started slipping, and they were like, "What do we do? Give them more of what they already love. Make breakfast 24 hours, right?" And that was how they expanded. That was how McDonald's grew. It was like, we're going to give you more of what you already love. You hate the 10:30 thing. You can have breakfast all fucking day.
Yeah.
And that was how they grew. It was like the exact opposite lesson of the new Coke thing.
Right. And Coke did McDonald's did something too where they used to do their fries in beef tallow, and they switched it to like vegetable oil. I don't even think they told anybody.
Yeah.
But that was another thing to like make it vegetarian and stuff, and I think they also put sugar in it.
Right.
Yeah, but a lot of it is just incremental. Don't make a big deal out of it.
Yeah. Well, back in the 80s, you thought naming anything new was going to be like, okay, here we fucking go.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have fucked around with this way too long. I'm sorry.
Well, we love Coke.
Yeah. It's. To me, it's just a crazy, fascinating story.
Yeah, it's great. And the whole Cosby thing's so
God, it's so stupid. Fucking idiot. Like they're tarnishing his reputation.
Hey, I got a reputation to keep here, people.
All right, but like, you say fucking idiot, but at the time that. You would have said that, like, at the time you had a reputation. At the time, like, until very recently, everyone was like, Cosby's, like, an all-time great.
Right. But if I'm Bill Cosby and I'm multiple raping people, I'm like, I'm happy to be here. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be like, get the fuck out of here with your sugary Coke.
Well, you don't become Bill Cosby by thinking like that.
Right. Yeah. But also part of his campaign against Pepsi, as the spokesperson was saying that Pepsi was too sweet, and then they come out with a sweeter thing than both. And so he was like, all right, well, that undermined me.
Yeah.
That was like part of his fucking thing. Anyway, Rad, you have a profile to tell us.
I do, and I'm very, very excited.
I'm excited to hear it.
And also I'm also excited to be on this episode, because I've been listening since the first episode, and I actually sent you the Wikipedia page for who I'm going to do, and you said you should do them.
Yeah.
And I was very flattered. because I'm like the first person to do a profile, I think.
You're a super fan.
I'd say so. And then, what was it, like earlier this week or last week, you messaged me and you go, so it's this Saturday. You gonna fuck it up or what? And yes, I probably will, but it's your fault. Because if it was up to PETA, I wouldn't be here.
If it was up to me, I'd be alone in a room.
Exactly. But I want to tell you guys about Lee Murray. And I know what you're thinking. We already know about Lee Murray, the data analyst from San Francisco. That's not who I'm talking about. Right? I'm talking about Lee Murray. He was born in London in 1977, and he is, if we go through his resume, drug dealer and famous gangster in London, an MMA fighter, and he also bank robber. Ooh. Which he still holds the record for the largest amount stolen ever.
Hell yeah!
In the world?
Yes.
Holy shit.
No shit.
Yes. It's somewhere around $90 million.
Oh my God.
But yeah, Lee Murray, also straight up Guy Ritchie character. Like if you just insert him into any Guy Ritchie movie, he'd fit right in. Mm-hmm. But he was, well, you got to start with his mother was, Barbara Murray was from London, and she lived in like the shitty area of London. She lived in a place called Shooter's Hill, and it was called that because of all the highway robberies that would go around there.
Cool.
But she wasn't related to any sort of crime. She worked as a hairdresser and then as a telephone operator. And she went on vacation to the Canary Islands where she met Brahim Lamrani, who was a Moroccan kitchen hand, because back then they didn't have cooks. They just had kitchen hands. And they hit it off. And so Brahim kind of knocked her up, and then she went back home.
I think he totally knocked her up.
Yeah. He totally shot her club up, I believe was the term. But she went home, she gave birth, and then like they kind of kept in contact. But Lee Murray's dad was never around until he was about 7. So he was born in 1977, but the dad just kept working in the Canary Islands, and he would just pop in. I believe until he was 7, Lee Murray saw his dad like 3 times total. And then his dad came to London and moved in, and they got married, they had another kid, and then almost from the start there started being like issues because Brahim was very much like a domineering dude that wanted respect, that kind of things. Yeah. But he was also kind of a piece of shit.
Right.
Like he was also right, but like I mean, he was definitely like he had the cops called for like domestic abuse and that kind of thing. Yeah. But he wasn't like beating his wife or anything. He just came from like that.
I'm the boss.
I'm the boss.
I'm the kitchen hand in this kitchen.
Exactly. Yeah. I deserve the respect, and if you don't give it to me, then like
you're gonna catch these kitchen hands.
Exactly. And that's what would happen. Right. And Lee would catch these kitchen hands a lot.
Oh God.
And so, he grew up with that, and they're just, even since 7, there's just like issues with the dad, but they also live in this rough area, which they moved away from Shooter's Hill. So now they live in another place, which is called Butt Marsh. Right? I couldn't wait to fucking say this.
Oh my God.
Because growing up, all the kids from that area would form a gang, and like they would kind of beef with other gangs from other areas, and they were called the Butt Marsh Boys.
Oh my God.
And they were known as the toughest gang. Which, do you know how fucking tough you have to be to like instill fear in people? Yeah. By being called the Butt Marsh Boys?
Right. Yeah.
Like you say, the Butt Marsh Boys are coming, and there's
no.
Exactly.
Right.
Lee he kind of established the pecking order. He was the leader. Yeah. Because even growing up, he was he had like this crazy style of fighting before. Like as a child, he would just start swinging his hands and like make these crazy facial expressions, and they would call him alien, and he would hate that. But eventually, he became the leader of this gang, and they would beef with other gangs. And in interviews, it's funny because like it's clearly like these are clearly hoodlums, but when he would talk about it, he'd be like, we're just regular kids playing like regular kids do. We weren't bad kids. And then he'd go on to speak further and then be like, yeah, I remember that one time where us and like these other gangs fought and like we would just fuck each other up. Like we'll go home with like broken limbs or like noses and shit. It's just kids playing. You know how it is. And during this time, you know, he's out in these streets beefing, and then he goes home, and then, you know, Moroccan dad is like, respect me. He's like, yeah, well, you weren't here till I was set. Fuck you.
Right, I'm alien.
So, exactly. It will get worse and worse. And the first, like, Lee Murray grew up, and it got to the point where, and this is, when I say grew up, he's still, like, barely a teenager at this point. But this is a neighbor that says this, that the one time he saw Brahim actually hit his son, and Lee turned around and fucking just gave him the old right there, Fred, and knocked him out cold.
Jesus.
He knocked his dad out.
He knocked his dad out cold. But he's still...
awesome.
Right, but this is a kid.
Hero. It's a hero.
Yeah. Especially because he's still like 13, 14.
Right.
And that's when he kind of got like real... Like before that, he was kind of a hoodlum, but like... anyone would probably be on that shit if you live in that kind of area.
Right.
At this point, he's like, oh, I can actually drop grown men. And he starts getting more and more. Like he starts becoming a thug. And you would think he knocked out his dad. Maybe now there's going to be some mutual respect going on. No. No. Well, what happened was it only got worse and worse to the point where Brahim was like, I'm leaving your mom and your sister because I'm going to fucking kill you.
Oh my God.
Like, it's going to get to that point. He's like, I got to go because someone's going to die. And so it kind of also sounds like he just wanted an out in this way, but you know.
Yeah.
And so at this point, you know, Lee Murray's getting more and more into gang violence and that kind of thing. And he eventually gets sent into a juvenile hall. And that's because he was caught with some sort of drug thing, right? Like he was messing around with these. He'd say they'd go to the train station and they'd hang around these like Nigerian drug dealers that were there. And then what would happen is eventually that turned into like they would work together, and then it turned into a turf war, where like the Butt Marsh boys beat the Nigerian boys.
Yeah.
But he got sent into a juvenile detention center where upon coming out, he's ready to go to high school and everything. And then now at this point, he's like, fuck it. Like now he's for real thugging. And he starts, you know, selling drugs. He starts like, fuck the Butt Marsh boys. Now we're like in a real gang. And he's starting to like establish himself as a well-known drug dealer. And starts to make money from that. And he was never really that good at school. He was like okay at sports, but not even that good at that. So he kind of just fucked off with that. And so at that point, you know, he starts getting just like minor arrests and picked up, like fighting here, you know, like drug possession there, that kind of thing.
Knocking out dads here.
Yeah, at that point, yeah.
Sell a little coke, knock out a dad.
Started a side business, like your dad's giving you trouble, just call me, you know, that kind of thing.
Is your dad being an asshole? Call me, Lee Murray. I'll show him his kitchen hands.
Once you knock out your dad, dude, there's no stopping you.
Oh, yeah, dude. That's folk hero status.
Yeah.
Oh, there was this kid who was cut of the Butt Marsh boys. I saw him knock his dad out cold.
That's the dad probably had to save face where he's like, I'm gonna kill him if I don't go. But it was like,
he walked away crying.
I just gotta go because
he's gonna kill me.
Yeah,
he's 13.
Right. Yeah.
Wait till the testosterone.
You know
hits.
that guy that looms large in your life? Turns out you can just knock the fucking son of a bitch out.
But yeah, he got convicted. And when he came out, he just got right back into it. And then he got another cocaine and marijuana conviction.
Okay.
And then when he came out, he became boys with this dude named Paul Allen. And Paul Allen, I guess, was like another well-known face in the crime.
Right. The London gangster scene is very extensive and
like I was telling you, when I was like reading news articles and shit, there's a bunch of names that like the English papers will name just like that you're supposed to know. They're like, and like Paul Allen was with them. With them. It's like, who?
Well, usual suspects type shit.
A very big part of the British tabloid scene is very extensive criminal research where they dive deep into finding out all these guys that are at large and super fucking criminals. And that also extended even to Ireland when I lived there. They would be like, all these guys that used to work with this famous guy that got killed, this is what all of his underlings are now doing. And they would have to black out their faces, but they would write all these articles and they get sued a lot, but they'd be like, this is what this motherfucker is doing right now. And they really do have their finger on the pulse. They have a very extensive criminal scene over there where there's a lot of very brilliant people, especially in robbery and like the Cray brothers and shit like that, were like celebrated folk heroes, like, in London and shit like that. A lot of people are like, fucking go get them. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the mafia in America. They very much have that in the UK.
Yeah, and it's a lot of those guys. Another guy, Mark Epstein, who also was an MMA fighter. He was also known for like enforcer for Lee Murray, and he started just being kind of a local drug dealer and a bully, but when you ask him, he says, I wasn't a bully, because he goes, a bully is somebody that picks on people weaker than him. I would just fight everybody. I don't care. Like, that was his reasoning as to why he's not a bully.
Equal opportunity thug,
Yeah, and again, at this point, he's a kid. He's still like 16, 17. And so, he's like going around harassing store owners, selling drugs, like, he has a turf. He's a 16-year-old with a turf.
Yeah.
Right? But he gets sent to another juvie. And then when he comes out, guess what happens? He doubles down on the crime shit even more.
Right.
And it gets to the point where, like, now he's spending all his money. Like, he's starting to make very good money from drugs. Him, Paul Allen, Epstein. And he realizes he starts working out because he's like 6'3", kind of a lanky dude, and he realizes he needs to put some muscle on him to look more intimidating. And the more money he makes, he goes, and now they started spending their money on like cars and steroids. Yeah. And at this point, the London police knows him, and they start like, they same
steroid dealer.
They try to like have an informant, but that didn't work. Like, nobody would dare snitch. Like, cops were afraid of him. Like, cops would stop him randomly, and he would talk shit and intimidate them. And then, like, sometimes he would follow cop cars around. Which I'm sure at the time they were like, wow, it'd be nice if we had guns or something.
Yeah.
But, like, there was cops in the station that were known of, like, no, I know, like, we kind of just turn a blind eye because he's a scary motherfucker.
Right.
Like, we just don't fuck with him.
Yeah.
And so at that point, he's doing all that stuff, and then he starts training. Like, he just figures out that he's pretty good at punching people, so he kind of starts training. And he has his first fight in 1999, and he wins by KO.
This is MMA?
Yes.
And this is in just some low-level MMA league?
This is in England. But he wins, and so in the first round by knockout, so they start calling him Lightning Lee Murray. But he's not even like, at this point, he just did it because it seemed fun or whatever. Like, he did this, at this point, he wasn't thinking this is a career. He's like, I'm making too much money scaring cops and selling drugs and shit.
Right.
But he gets married and has a kid the following year, and then I guess he had he started realizing this is not the life I want. So he writes on the wedding license for a job, he writes professional fighter.
Something respectable.
Exactly. Right. And he starts training. He has another fight, and this fight he wins by submission, which is odd. The reason it's odd is because, especially at the time, there's not a lot of grapplers in England. Like, that wasn't a thing. Like, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys came out here to Southern California.
Right. It was more strikers and shit.
Yeah, and especially considering that was his thing. He was like throw hands guy. And so in an interview, he explains why he submitted the guy. And it's because the day before his fight, he went to watch Prince Nassim box at a bar. He went to watch a boxing match. And he sat down, and then there was a guy in front of him. And he told the guy, also it's hilarious because like listening to this man that is just known as a child for like being a drug dealer and a hoodlum, and the way he describes it, he was like, I sat down and that guy was in front of me and I very politely asked him to move so I could see the TV, please. And he said, no, that's my seat. I said, that couldn't be your seat, good sir, you know. How could this it was empty? And the guy said, well, I'm not moving, fuck you. And he shoved me, and so I punched him and knocked him out. And then another guy came, and so he knocked him out. And then a third guy came, and he says he grabs him in a tie clinch and drops some knees, and the guy's out.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I gotta go. And then he's at home, and he goes, and when I look at my knee, there's a bunch of blood and a piece of skin from that guy's forehead that I need. But he's like, I also can't close my fist. And he's got to fight. He's got a professional
he broke
fight.
His hand.
Oh my God.
But he's like, fuck that. I didn't train all this time.
Right.
And so he went and fought that guy with the broken hand. And he's like, and that's why I had to try and submit him, because I couldn't hit with my one hand.
Jesus Christ.
Is that happening to this guy everywhere? Like, Lee, how was the cricket match? I got into a fight with 3 guys.
Yeah. I had to invent a new way to choke a guy out.
Yeah.
It was a good movie, though. Good movie.
Basically, that's what it was, though.
That's fucking diabolical.
Right, but, you know, he fought with a broken hand and submitted the guy, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And so, like, he starts, you know, fighting more and more. And at that point, he's like, I kind of want this to be my career. And also, this is the 90s, like late 90s too. So this is like when UFC's really starting to pick up. And so he keeps training. Eventually, he goes to America to train for a couple fights. And he trains with this guy, Pat Miletich, who was also, he's like a well-known coach. So he trained with like Matt Hughes, like Robbie Law, a bunch of guys that were like champions and like big names in MMA. And even there, they were like, yeah, he was a good dude, but like real intense, right?
Yeah.
Just not the guy that you really, you know, you want to fuck with. But like, also you got to keep in mind, those guys are all animals too.
Right.
Animals calling other animals real animals.
Yeah, like Robbie Lawler is still known as like, he blocks shot, like he just eats like they're all like that. Just, they enjoy getting hit, it almost seems like.
Yeah.
You know, like they're actual like warriors. So he fits right in. But actually, let me backtrack because before that, it's he started training at 2 gyms. He trained wrestling at one gym, and then he trained boxing and stuff at another gym.
And this is in the States?
No, this is in England. Okay. I'm just gonna back up because he trained with these guys as the Bauer brothers. And at the time when he was training, they also described them as like, these are very nice, respectful young men. They're also gangsters. Right. At the time that they're training, they were planning a robbery of like some sort of like money depot or whatever the fuck it's called. Like,
I think they're called banks.
No, it's not a bank. It's like, it was like a warehouse for an airport.
Okay.
But they keep like a bunch of money and other shit there. They were gonna steal like £1 million or something, and they were planning to like pretend, like dress up as cops and basically, or security guards, and kind of go in. And you know, he wasn't involved, but it's funny because later, as you'll see, when he was involved in one of the biggest heists ever, it's very similar how it was planned to this. Yeah. Right? And again, I looked up about, like, they're also like a lesser level gangsters than him, or maybe just I didn't read the right shit, but like I just didn't see so many, like, and then he got stopped and he got picked up for drugs again, or then he got picked up because somebody sideswiped him and he almost beat the guy to death in a road rage incident, like stuff like that. Right. It's just consistent through his life. Right. Lee Murray has constantly shit like that. Yeah. But he's also like he's a good fighter. Like he's actually very talented at fighting. And so he has a couple fights, kind of brings up a decent record. And that's when he starts training over at in the US. And he has a fight in the UFC and he beats this dude named Jorge Rivera, and he submits him too, which is again crazy because Jorge Rivera is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. This dude's mostly a striker, but that's his big win.
Yeah.
His big win is submitting the submission expert.
Well, also that's like his coming out party almost, right? Because he's kind of unknown.
And is that now like UFC official kind of?
This was in UFC fight. Like this is really his only UFC fight.
Okay.
Because remember when I said he beat the shit out of a guy that sideswiped him? Mm-hmm. So like now he's got visa issues. And so he can't fight. But between all that, there's also like he kind of gets popular because there's a UFC in London, and later he's in a club, and in the club are Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, a bunch like Bas Rutten, a bunch of those guys, and there's a brawl. And so the story goes that he knocked out Tito Ortiz, who at the time Tito's like the light heavyweight champion.
Yeah, Huntington Beach bad boy. A lot of these early guys were dudes not on Lee Murray's level, but a lot of them, like Tank Abbott, Tito Ortiz, Bas Rutten, they were all like just badass dudes who worked their way into MMA and into the UFC. Like Tito would just go around beating the fuck out of dudes in the South Bay and Huntington Beach. Bas Rutten was like a bouncer who became an expert. Tank Abbott was just a fucking drunk.
Yeah.
He was bench press 400 pounds.
Definition bar brawler.
Yeah, brawler and iron chin.
Yeah.
And
I would not want to be in a bar in Huntington Beach.
No, I still don't.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's but then those guys were like the proto, Mount Rushmore of the beginning days of the UFC.
Yeah, very much.
Right.
So he knocks out Tito.
Well, that's what
allegedly.
That's how the story goes. So this is actually before his UFC fight, because UFC this like a London UFC, which was like a little bit before. Like he fought in UFC 43. This was in 38, just to give you an idea. So like, but they still know him because he's like in England. He's a known fighter.
Right.
But
he's the guy that knocked his dad out.
But like, that's his big win at 14.
Honestly, don't underestimate the power of that. That is like so symbolic and archetypal of the guy who knocked his dad out at 13 is like such an anti-establishment, anti-authoritarian, fuck you, little guy against the big guy David and Goliath thing. Like if I knew somebody that knocked their dad out, I would never forget that.
Sure.
I think at 13, if I just caught my dad flush on the chin, nothing would have happened.
I would have broke my hand and have to submit him.
Yeah.
Exactly,
But if he went down, you'd be like, I guess I'm God.
Mom, get over here. You're mine. Huh? What?
But and this is like, people ask Tito about this because, of course Tito goes, no, that never happened. But
sure.
He just doesn't remember.
Pat Miletich said it happened. I think Bas Rutten was there.
No shit.
On the other hand, Chuck Liddell says he never saw Tito go down. And like Chuck Liddell does not like Tito Ortiz at all.
Right.
So like, I tend to believe that something like Tito caught these hands for sure. Because here's the thing. Also, Tito goes, it never happened. But then at some point he goes, well, I had dress shoes on. What do you want from me?
Right. Got it.
Right. So maybe he never went down, a la Chuck Liddell's firsthand witness testimony.
Or Chuck didn't know. Chuck was also blowed out, I'm sure.
Right. Something happened, and it wasn't good for Tito. And it made Homeboy look good.
Yeah.
Right.
And even after that, he gets his UFC win, so he looks even better.
Yeah.
And then he can't fight anymore
because he knocked out the guy that sideswiped him.
Right. So like he can't get a visa, right?
Yeah.
So what he has to do is fight in a promotion, like a local promotion called Cage Rage, which before he can get his fight there, he goes to some party, to some supermodel or like whatever the reality chick version of like famous hot girls on TV was back then. Some girl named Lauren Pope, who was like a tabloid hot girl back
the name
then.
sounds familiar.
Yeah, he goes to a party there, gets in a fight. It doesn't add up, I know. But he does get in a fight, and he
Was his dad there?
Well, no, because then his dad would have left, so nobody gets killed. But he got stabbed.
He got
stabbed, and he was in critical condition, like he's almost gonna die, right?
Dude, you know what kind of guys have knives at a party? Kitchen hands.
He even like the doctor, like he went apparently to thank the doctor afterwards, and the doctor's like, don't thank me, thank all these nurses, because they had to carry like gallons of blood with the amount they had lost.
Jesus Christ.
So, you know,
it was a close call.
Fight game takes a bit of a hiatus.
Right.
But then he gets back to he goes to cage rage.
Right.
And he has his last fight for the title against a guy named Anderson Silva.
Ooh.
And this is Anderson.
Young Anderson.
Yeah, this is Anderson before the UFC. Mm-hmm. Like, Anderson has this fight and then a couple more, and then he goes in the UFC run. And so they have this fight, and it's like, depends who you ask. I watched it recently again because there was a lot of like, oh, Lee Murray had his ticket, but like he lost, he couldn't make it to the end. Mm-hmm. Like, Lee Murray definitely lost. He didn't get his ass kicked, but like it was a definite like, you lost by points. Mm-hmm. But it was like, considering you're fighting Anderson Silva.
Sure.
You know.
And you just got stabbed.
Yeah. Well, no. This is like a few years after.
Okay.
Right.
But maybe you mean like the memory of being stabbed.
Dude, I got a paper cut like a year ago. I still...
Still not ready for combat?
I still cite that as a reason.
Maybe he had PTSD. But yeah, he lost by points to Anderson Silva. But it's still, everyone's kind of like, cool. Anderson's been dropping motherfuckers. And this is... Again, this isn't like Anderson at his peak, but he's already a name. Right. And Anderson was only fighting there because he had contract disputes with the UFC. He went to the UFC pretty soon after, I think a couple fights after that. But Lee Murray's like, all right, I got to figure out my comeback fight. But in between that, what puts a stop to that, because that's his last fight, because him and a couple of the fellas decide to plan a robbery of like, I don't know if this is a brand, but like the Securitas Depot, which is some sort of like money warehouse. It's
another one of these money depots you keep talking about. Yeah.
Well, I think this is like along the lines of the Lufthansa thing, like where it's like there's just going to be a shitload of cash in this place, and it's a transferable situation, like
like robbing an armored car or something like that. You don't rob it. You don't rob Fort Knox. You rob the trucks leaving and going to Fort Knox.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So
this is like it's called Securitas Depot. It's I guess where they keep money.
Yeah.
They don't only keep money in banks, guys. Let's be real.
No, that's fair.
I don't know how British fucking
I gotta open a business
vaults work.
Money Depot.
There's money here.
But we're not a bank.
Don't get it twisted. You can keep your money here, but don't come here waving your card around thinking this means something.
You can't get it.
It's just got a garage door and you click it.
So they plan this robbery, and it takes a minute. Like, they stake the place out and everything, and eventually they find out who, like, there's like a manager that works in this place, and they follow him, they figure out his schedule, and they get dressed up as cops, which sounds familiar.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they pull the guy over. Like, he thinks it's just like a undercover cop car. And they come out, you know, with like the reflective vests and the no guns, so he knows it's legit.
Fucking pussy-ass cops.
And they were like, you were speeding. Come on out, and just kind of like come sit in the back of the car. And then when he sits in the back of the car, they just drive the fuck off with this guy. They kidnap him. And they, you know, pull out guns. And they
hey, you guys aren't cops.
Exactly. Wait a minute.
You guys got guns.
You guys aren't Bobbies. This isn't very Bobby-like at all.
Yeah.
So they kidnap this dude, and they basically let him know, like, you're going to help us get into this bank. This
Money Depot.
The secured-ass Money Depot. So he
goes, secured-ass Money Depot.
I don't know how to pronounce it without saying secured ass.
No, I get it.
It's Securitas.
Yeah,
whatever,
right. No, it's
secured ass money.
Yeah.
That was their logo.
Tight ass cash warehouse, homie.
Secured as fuck.
But they go in. They use this guy to kind of get him past like the security and the alarms and shit. Like one guy, and then they let in, and it's on camera. You know, they got like the masks, dressed as cops still, lets the other people in. They kind of, you know, gather everybody. Regular robbery stuff. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Right,
like,
round up the employees.
Get on the ground.
This is a Money Depot robbery.
Tell me where the money is.
Yeah.
They start piling money into this truck. Like, they need to use like forklifts and the fucking, what's it called? Like the steel cages, like the rolling steel cages.
Yeah.
Like they have them in casinos when they roll like that kind of shit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they come out with like 57 million pounds.
Like they had like huge box trucks, I guess, to get all this cash out.
They were saying, they were like, fuck, the truck we got is not big enough. We could have left with like 300 million.
Well, right, sure. Fucking right, the truck wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
We're going to need a bigger truck.
Exactly. But they were like, you know what? 57 is good.
Right.
I think
I'll settle.
We won't come back.
Yeah.
And so...
We won't come back.
Yeah. And so they, they make the escape. And for a while, like, there's a minute where it's like, what happened? But then... somebody gets picked up and in a van that has like $20 million. People start getting picked up here and there, but not Lee Murray. And Lee Murray, they get a little, like when he kind of figures out like, oh, this isn't going well, he moves to Morocco. Because if you have a Moroccan father, you're automatically a Moroccan national.
Wow.
And if you're a Moroccan national, they don't have like
extradition policy.
They don't have extradition with the UK.
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing he kept some of the money because he buys like a $1.5 million mansion in Morocco.
Oh, that's got to be gigantic.
Yeah, and like that money stretches a lot further in Morocco.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's good, right? Like he's living a good life.
Get his dad chained up in a basement.
No, he's got a whole bunch of dads now. Like he's got a dad for every day of the week.
He's got a dad dungeon down there.
All he wanted.
Just beating on dads.
Just a bunch of dads. So
Dad house, Morocco.
Sucks.
Fuck you.
And like the UK, like Kent police is like trying to negotiate with Moroccan police, but they're like, no, there's no extradition.
Yeah, you don't want to fucking go down there, that big ass house, and get that motherfucker.
Yeah.
But they do arrest him. They do. They finally do arrest
the Moroccan
him.
Police. Thing?
Yeah, because he keeps fucking around there.
Oh, of course.
They catch him. Yeah, they catch him with drugs and they pick him up.
Jesus Christ.
And they actually do arrest him and charge him. They really did throw the book at him for that cocaine thing. 8 months, bro.
Whoa. 8 months for what?
Cocaine and marijuana possession. Nice. But then they kind of...
But Morocco, like, they'll let you do it. They'll let you fuck kids, make hash, and all that shit.
Yeah, but
Morocco's
don't do drugs,
like notorious, like laissez-faire.
But just don't
that
do drugs.
Right, Aaron?
Yeah. William Burroughs went there and had a couple of boyfriends. I mean, little boyfriends.
Morocco, for real.
Yeah.
That's
Inception. That's where he goes to fuck off in people's brains.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, Morocco's kind of like do whatever you want.
In fact, later it came out that it was actually kind of like a joint operation where they were like, you know what? Help us arrest them, but we're not giving them to you. But we'll pick them up.
Sure.
And then they're like, we'll initially say it's these charges, but then later we'll do...
Right.
Yeah.
And so... And even like they were like, we have to have specialists here because these guys are very dangerous and they're like martial arts specialists. So we can't just have like your local beat cops. You know?
Right.
So they pick them up.
We recommend guns.
They start doing this sort of... They start like trying to figure out a trade with the UK, where they were like, well, I'll tell you what, we'll give you guys Lee Murray, but you guys got to give us this dude that was suspected for like some sort of terrorist bombing. In the meantime, Lee Murray is in Moroccan prison, and eventually he gets sentenced to 10 years for the robbery. For
the robbery in London.
That's a weird thing to me, and I made sure because it sounds like I read everywhere I could because it sounds odd, but that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
He was tried without being there.
He got tried in Morocco for the shit he did in England.
Wow.
And then there's like a bunch of fun because there's interviews I read. Like one interview is from the Moroccan jail where like even the interviewer's like, we talked to him on a cell phone. We don't know how he got a cell phone. You're not supposed to have cell phones there.
He's got one.
He got in trouble for trying to escape prison because he kept getting sent biscuits. But like British biscuits, I'm guessing, with files in them.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And he was also like losing a shitload of weight and starving himself so he could fit through bars better.
Yeah, he was cutting weight.
Exactly. But then somebody like
fit through bars.
Somebody like went in because they didn't like him because he had money in Moroccan prison, so he could buy stuff. So people try to rob him. He had they said he had like an internet connection and shit.
Oh Jesus Christ!
And then he, and the whole time, by the way, in the interview, he's already he's 40 now. He was pretty far along, but he's like, no, there's a couple guys here that were Muay Thai fighters. We train. I'm coming out. I'm coming after Silva.
No shit.
Way. He's like, he got me, but don't think this is the last you've seen him.
Yeah, I'm training in prison.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's all so weird with those interviews because he's trying to portray himself as a nicer dude than he is, but you could tell sometimes when it's just bullshit.
Yeah, and eye twitches.
Yeah, we're well, no, it's over the phone. He was the reason they extended my sentence is because I got in. They were trying to steal my stuff because they were jealous that I have all this money. It's no, they found the files.
Right. Yeah.
They're jealous of all my files.
Yeah,
exactly.
So he got sentenced what year? Ish.
2010.
So he's getting out in a few years.
No.
Uh-oh.
No, he's not because
Plot thickens.
Right? It got extended to 25 years.
Ugh.
Because of him fucking around in prison?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't because that's the thing I don't get. It's definitely have to do with that escape attempt.
Yeah, or probably fucking fighting and doing drugs and having goddamn Wi-Fi.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the fighting in Moroccan...
You can't have Wi-Fi, but we don't like them. Why?
Yeah, I'm sure the Moroccan prisons got a few fights.
Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, generally, it just sounds like everywhere he goes, he's trouble, and he's gonna get...
That's the thing, though. He gets sentenced to 10 years in June 2010. By November, it's extended to 25 years. God. And that's what he's serving right now.
Yeah.
He's serving 25 years, and he's in good spirits.
You think his dad shows up yeah, who's a bitch now?
Yeah.
Try to hit me. I told you to respect me. You see what happens?
Fist through those bars, boy.
But that's the thing is that you go to some place like Morocco where you're I can spend my money, I can not get extradited, I can be free. It's yeah, but if you fuck up there, they don't need any there's not going to be a public.
You're going to want to get extradited.
There's not going to be a public inquiry into why your fucking sentence got extended by 15 years. People are just that's the fucking way it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's also he went there, but then he went there and was yeah, I'm a fucking gangster. You can't get,
Yeah.
Lay low.
Yeah.
Lesson for the episode, gang, is if you ever rob a money depot.
Yes, if you commit the biggest heist in history, lay low.
Yeah. Rent an apartment. Don't buy a house.
Right. Yeah. But also.
Nice house.
Nice,
if you get a fucking palace, at least shut the fuck up.
Yeah, why do you have drugs with you out of the palace? Do them all in the palace.
That's what a palace is for.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, bring the drugs to you.
Mm-hmm.
Scarface.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's wild times.
So now he's just rotting away. Or doing push-ups or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
he'll write a fucking book like Jordan Belfort.
Oh no, they're making a movie about it.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, hell yeah.
Who's in it? Who's doing it? What's up?
Well, I mean,
Guy Ritchie.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Oh, we should. Don't make no fucking King Arthur movies. Give me a crazy dude from England who talked like this and he beats people up, especially his father.
Yeah.
Give me that.
Just do another Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, it's. Those British gangsters, man. I mean, the British gangster is a fascinating thing in itself, and more so than that, to me, is the British heist guys. A bunch of these British heist guys are when you see the operation, you're oh, you should be an engineer. Mm-hmm. But they're not, and they're criminals. Some of the crazy extensive things where they have a whole thing rigged up where it's oh, we're just going to pull out the whole front wall in broad daylight of the fucking jewelry store and then rob everything. And you're holy shit, you worked it all out.
Yeah.
All the force you were going to need to rip out the front wall of the jewelry store in broad daylight and then have motorcycle. Just a very involved, very deliberate, brilliant plan. There was a great fucking heist planned on the fucking Millennium Dome in London.
Oh, really?
But they got snitched out. But it involved motorboats and bulldozers.
Yeah.
Like a huge heist to steal like the world's biggest diamond, which was they had a snitch the whole time. So once they all got in there was just like the security guard was like, check it out, I got a gun. Whoops. You know what I mean? But like really,
the one thing we took into account the newtons that we would need to remove the door.
Right.
And we got the parachutes timed to the phases of the moon, but we didn't take into account that they might have a gun.
As that happens, you just see 10 people parachute down. You're like, go back.
Right. Well, I mean, you can imagine all of the defense, involved with what they know is coming, like a 20-person operation to do it. A huge heist on the Thames fucking river and like all that shit, and they all got caught. But I mean, there's a vast history of British heists that are just breathtaking.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing.
I'd love to do some more of those.
I don't know. There's definitely for this show, I've definitely thought of a bunch of British heist guys that are just so fascinating.
Heists are the best.
Well, I mean, it's...
But they really kill it there. The British guys specifically are...
Well, they're fancy.
They're just...
there's no guns to...
There's no guns to fuck it up, But
it's like that Catch Me If You Can thing where it's like, if you applied any of these skills to a normal thing, like you'd be top of the world, but also it's so cool you applied it to crime. Like it's the best.
And then, you make your way out and you end up advising the people you were evading.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day...
Yeah. I mean,
I don't think Lee Murray's going to be doing that when he gets out.
No, but also... He's got to have something going on to pull off the biggest heist of all time.
Oh, they were saying on some news clips, they were saying like it was military precision the way they performed it. Like it wasn't just go put the money in the bag. Like there was definite like extensive planning going on.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to do a heist?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's plan it all right now, and then let the episode go.
Yeah,
and then we'll do it.
And we'll release it after the fact when we're in Morocco. Fucking it up.
Yeah,
chopping it up,
fucking tearing it up. Whatever.
Chill with Lee Murray.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, that's a pretty wild time.
It's a hell of a profile.
I wonder if he's gonna get out.
I mean, after what is it? So he got convicted in 2010.
So 2035.
I think a little bit before. I think he got arrested before that, so I think it's like 2032 or something.
Right. Well, I'm sure he'll behave well too.
Yeah.
So
Out on good behavior.
I mean, that's the thing too. Is like I think a lot of times they're like, well, we don't think you've been in here long enough that you're broken. So we're just gonna hang on to you because you're too fucking wild a guy.
There's a twinkle in your eyes. I mean, like.
a Lee Murray from Shooters Hill is gonna be like
the bottom boys.
Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and every time you let him out, he seems to double down. He only gains strength when you let him out.
Yeah, it's like fucking Chopper or fucking Bronson. Any of those guys, it's just like, dude, you're too fucking wild.
Dude, Bronson's the best.
You just gotta stay in here and write a book, okay?
Yeah.
He's like, all right. I'm going to work out or get skinny. I don't know which, but I'll be doing something.
Here's some paint. Go do something creative. Just paintings of him beating his dad.
Red, thank you for being on the program, buddy.
Yeah, man, this is a great story.
That was a very, very cool story.
We'll put some, the clips are available online pretty easily. We can get some screenshots and some video clips to put on the Instagram.
For sure. Yeah, the interview is just text, it's transcribed.
Yeah.
There's clips of the fights and of a bunch of stuff. There's news articles, that kind of thing. It's all over the internet.
Well, we will get it up.
Yeah.
I think we're out of time.
We are out of time. Hey, if you're looking for nice headphones, go to studiosweden.com, enter the promo code
Profiles15.
Get 15% off. We'll get a kickback, and we'll listen to fucking the Try It Out guy.
Yeah. Matt, say goodnight, my friend.
Good night, folks.
Rad, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Aaron, I love you very much.
I love you.
Good night, folks.
Good night.
Take care.